Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Immunotech Talks, where we delve into the fascinating world of the wellness revolution. I'm Dr. Hugo Palafox, and today's episode is particularly special as we explore a topic that touches the lives of many, Alzheimer's disease. And I have here with me an esteemed doctor, a wonderful person, and a remarkable professional who will share his insight into the complexities of Alzheimer's. But please let me show you some of the highlights of his professional background, which is very extensive. But he's chairman of the Scientific Advisory Board of Immunotech. He's the world's leading authority on glutathione, board certified ER physician from the University of Calgary, director of the undergraduate program and director of emergency medicine resident training at McGill University in Montreal. He also has been organizing of various international medical conferences, as well as speaker, and has contributed to the training of thousands of doctors and students. So his legacy is incredible. He has been a member of the board of directors of numerous academic and medical institutions dealing with politics and education. He's frequently heard on radio and television and social media around the world talking about the role of glutathione in health indices. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Jimmy Gutman. Hello, Doctor.
Dr. Palafox, thank you for that wonderful introduction, and it's wonderful to share this program with you. Absolutely great.
No, I'm pretty thrilled because this is a very important topic, of course, but it's wonderful having you here, and thank you so much for taking the invitation. For sure, you have so much to share, but let's start approaching this topic by tell us about the Alzheimer's disease and how big is this problem, because we heard a lot about it recently, and most of us know someone very close to us that is undergoing these circumstances.
Absolutely. In fact, Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia in North America. And right now, it affects more than 5 million people in the United States alone. That doesn't count Canada or Mexico or any other countries. And predictions that this is going to rise to 16 million cases in America by 2050. And this number, it's actually probably higher than that because a lot of people go undiagnosed. The estimates are that as many as 5 or even 10% of adults over the age of 65, and I don't think that's too old, are affected. And over the age of 80, this figure can rise to 1 in 3. That's a third of these older population. Now, given the changes in our population demographics, we're moving towards longer lifespans. This represents just an enormous future problem. And it's also interesting to note that Alzheimer's disease follows heart disease, cancer, and stroke. It's the 4th most common cause of death.
Wow. Wow. I mean, these are shocking numbers, for sure. Shocking numbers. And I'm trying to think what we are missing here, right? As a society, why this is happening, but probably that discussion is for another time, because these are very dramatic numbers and stats and all the connections. So, but what is exactly Alzheimer's disease? I mean, how would you best describe the course of the illness?
Of course, a good place to start. Alzheimer's is classified as a neurodegenerative disease, where there's progressive deterioration of memory, comprehension, intellectual function, and behavior. It could start off slowly, subtly, with slow progression over 20 years, or in certain cases, the patient might deteriorate rapidly with a scary decline in mental capacity over a short period of time. But on average, the duration is about 7 years. Now, not to be confused with simple forgetfulness of normal aging, Alzheimer's disease leads to significant memory lapses and dramatic mood changes, emotional outbursts, childish behavior, an inability to retain new information, and general confusion or disorientation. Their health and general abilities decline over time until the patient can't take care of themselves and eventually dies.
So it's progressive, and it will depend. In some people, it's pretty fast. Everything what is happening, and in some others will be like slightly progressing. Because yes, from my own experience, I have seen both cases in where the brain goes down pretty fast, and some other time is like very progressive, but eventually we have fatal situation at the end. So, but what is happening in the brain, Dr. Gutman? What is happening there? Because that's where the situation is. So what is happening with those cells?
Well, when you look closely at Alzheimer's disease, you'll see a degeneration of brain nerve cells and an actual shrinking of the brain mass. Although the exact cause is not yet known, certain changes in the brain have been well identified. Patients have decreased levels of certain neurotransmitters. These relay messages from neuron to neuron. And two other striking microscopic features are what we call neurofibrillary tangles and neural plaque formation. These are plaque-like structures that develop in the brain, and they interfere with normal cognitive processes. And they're made up of this sticky mess of fat and protein that we call amyloid. And these can block cell-to-cell signaling, and even worse, it can trigger an immune system reaction that leads to inflammation and eventual destruction of this amyloid plaque stuff and surrounding tissue. And this is one reason that contributes to what we call a shrinking brain that we see in CT scans of advanced Alzheimer's patients.
And I mean, this is very complex, and I see it like a cascade of situation. One thing is connected to another, but how is diagnosed? Is there like a specific analysis so professional can diagnose it? What we know about that?
Well, there's no single specific test for Alzheimer's. Sometimes it's apparent on clinical exam, but there are a number of blood tests that people are looking at, and we'll look at one a little bit later on, in I guess in our discussion. But right now it's a combination of clinical examination and, of course, the CT scan or MRI. And if you've progressed on in your Alzheimer's, these are actually sensitive tests. They will actually show changes in the physical appearance of the brain, and this is a more definitive test.
Okay. So there is something I'm thinking about the cause. You just mentioned it, that there's no clear identified cause behind it, right? But what we have heard, I suppose that there are efforts, right, to really understand what is the cause of that.
Oh, for sure. So you're right. We don't fully understand the cause, but there are a number of theories that try to explain these changes. Let's go back a little in history. Years ago, Alzheimer's was thought to be just a variant of the normal aging process. We used to call it senile dementia. But yeah.
Yes, I have heard about it. Sorry, yeah.
Yes. But now it's clear that Alzheimer's is a separate disease. It's an abnormal condition. But there are a number of factors that may at least delay or slow its progression. Studies are looking at the interaction, for example, with heavy metals like aluminum, like mercury, other iron, things like iron and zinc. All of these lead to plaque formation. So a strong argument, and you'll appreciate this, Dr. Palafox, has been made for the role of oxidative stress and free radical formation in promoting the damage in these tissues.
Okay. Yes. I mean, I have been involved with the antioxidant metabolism in our body. Wow. I mean, oxidative stress, cellular stress is everywhere. Especially, I have read that is basically the cause of many diseases, like not only for brain, but many other tissues in our body. So the brain suffers a lot from oxidative stress as well. So there is a lot of oxidation there.
Oh, for sure. The brain represents just a few percent of our total body weight, but probably uses 20% of the oxygen that we breathe. So oxygen, oxidation, oxidative stress, free radical damage. And so where does glutathione fit into this picture?
Think about it.
Yeah. If heavy metals are involved in the progression of Alzheimer's, well, even there, glutathione plays a critical role in the elimination and detoxification of these heavy metals. A number of potential suspects have been lined up: iron, copper, zinc, aluminum, and others we mentioned. Now, it's important to point out that these metals are important in human physiology, but when they accumulate to high levels or in the wrong places, problems are going to result. So researchers have described how metals and Alzheimer's disease interact, and they've clearly stated that the protective role of glutathione requires more focus from the research community while they search for new treatments.
And also I'm thinking about the antioxidant defense mechanisms. Okay, we have metals around, we have different challenges around, but that's why we have our antioxidant defense mechanism. Yeah, of course, along with our immune system, but I'm thinking about that probably in those people, there are some kind of deficiencies in the antioxidant defense system, or the function of that mechanisms is under struggle somehow. Well, and probably glutathione is not present in the levels or concentration as we would like, right? Or according to the needs.
For sure, absolutely. And as researchers find out more and more how free radicals contribute to brain cell destruction, the role of glutathione as the primary antioxidant will continue to come to the front of the class. So scientists have examined Alzheimer's brains on autopsy. A large number of post-mortem studies, that's after death, have compared normal with Alzheimer's brain tissue. And they're showing significant drops in glutathione and glutathione peroxidase. As they're also seeing elevated levels of a powerful oxidant called lipid peroxide, which against glutathione is the primary defense. The sites of this damage likely occurs at the mitochondrial level, where energy is produced. And research teams have found that glutathione levels are diminished in the area of the brain involved in short-term memory, what we call the hippocampus. And others have found similar decreases in the area of the brain involved in higher intellectual functioning, which we call the cerebral cortex. So you're correct. glutathione levels are severely diminished in these Alzheimer's brains.
Also, I imagine that probably by measuring glutathione can give us a clue of the severity of the disease, right? Somehow.
Oh, absolutely. Measuring glutathione can be used as a marker of the possible onset or progression of the disease. The problem, Dr. Palafox, as you know, is that measuring glutathione levels is not an easy thing. It's also expensive. But when our ability in the next few years to measure glutathione accurately and cheaply comes around, you're going to see this happening as a routine.
So I see it taking care of your glutathione in both ways, as preventive and as a reactive action, because as you mentioned, our brain has a lot of work to do, a lot of pressure, a lot of oxidative stress to deal with. So we need to provide resources. We need to provide the resources for your defenses. In this case, having the optimum glutathione levels in your brain cells. So we have technology around that really promotes glutathione biosynthesis, right?
Well, of course. And I guess that's a great segue into a discussion on Immunocal.
Yes.
And thank you for that. So Immunocal, for people who don't know what it is, it's a whey protein isolate specifically developed to raise glutathione. We know that eating glutathione itself is not an efficient way to raise body stores of glutathione. To raise glutathione levels in your body, you need to ingest what we call the precursors or specific building blocks so that your cells manufacture glutathione themselves. I've seen you talk about this, Dr. Palafox, and there's an excellent video circulating now where you mention this. Immunocal provides the specific nutrition for your cells to make glutathione, as proven by multiple studies. Immunotech, the makers of Immunocal, they've invested serious time and funds into researching its effect on general health, but more recently on brain health, especially in neurodegenerative diseases. So I welcome everybody to visit the Immunotech website to find out more and to access these studies and read them themselves.
And also something that I really, really like about Immunocal, besides all the wonderful explanations you just gave us, is that Immunocal is protein. I mean, I love protein, by the way. I'm so conscious about the value of protein. So including Immunocal in your daily nutrition is like so easy. It's like, okay, you need to eat protein. Okay, let's bring Immunocal in some part of that protein in your daily basis. So it's fantastic because you are using the technology behind a dietary supplements is part of your nutrition, but it has this remarkable effect on your glutathione biosynthesis. So we are not talking about here some suspicious compound or drug or something. No. This is natural product. This is food that can provide a remarkable effect on your immunity, and especially in this case, to promote optimum glutathione levels all over your body, but in this case, we are worried about our brains, right?
Yes, and to further your points, for the scientists, for the researchers, for the medical or health professionals, what really counts, the bottom line before you can suggest to a patient to take something is whether there exists human clinical trials. And this is where this natural product shines above the vast majority of natural products out there. We have actually taken it to multiple international research stations and universities, and tested it on human beings, and published articles on the results, raising glutathione and improving clinical results in human beings in some of the best journals in the world. And this to me is the most convincing aspect of this strategy.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And in this case, we are citizens, but we are consumers as well. But in this case, we are also, well, the people of science that we really appreciate when you have a solid product with solid evidence. So you can put your hope, your time, your money on that. So thank you so much, Dr. Jimmy. I have some notes here that I would like to share with the audience, so we are clear with this all situation with Alzheimer, glutathione, and our brain health. It's a way to summarize, because this is a very extensive topic, right? And thank you so much for all these very strong data. Now I can see that Alzheimer's disease is a form of neurodegenerative disease, right? In which the brain actually breaks down and shrinks in size. That's shocking. I mean, we don't want that at all. Although the exact cause has not been identified, but there are really good clues behind. And now we know that glutathione is part of the more effective strategies as a preventive, and also as taking action right now. Because glutathione, as we know, is a naturally occurring substance in our bodies, in our brain cells. And in this case, I'm fascinated about all the work behind our brain cells. It needs to be detoxifying constantly from all these oxygens, dealing with oxidative stress, and things are getting worse as we age, right? So we need to take action before that happens. So, well, studies that glutathione levels are significantly decreased in Alzheimer's brains. That's a super solid data. So there is a correlation between the severity and the presence of the disease with the glutathione levels. So that's a crucial data. So it makes totally sense. Increasing glutathione can be considered both as preventive and investigated as a treatment for this devastating disease. So I'm working on that. I'm working on that in my family as well.
Excellent summary, Dr. Palafox. Really very clear. I think that the listeners really appreciate that. And I appreciate working with you. Your comments are fantastic. This was a lot of fun. So I thank you, and I thank Immunotech for inviting me to this call.
Likewise, Dr. Jimmy. So I hope to find you in another episode. And please, to the audience, thank you so much for being here with us, and stay tuned for our next capsule and our next Immunotech talk. Take care. See you soon, doctor.